What's up, everyone? Welcome to This Day in Philly Sports History for January 15th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the podcast. Happy Humpday to everyone out there. Before we get into today's episode, let's do some quick housekeeping. First, be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok, at Philly Jimbo on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont, and continue to spread the word. We had a good day yesterday. I'll get into that in a minute. Didn't start off so good, though. Be sure to check out the feature on the KYW News Radio site through Odyssey, featured as the Fan of the Month. Nice little article, as well as what was played on the radio on Sunday. Pretty cool experience. Pretty cool to be recognized and have the world know about this day. Well, at least the local area know about this day in Philly sports history. And then be sure to check out On Pattison. You can get their online newsletter delivered right to your inbox every day. We're featured in there a couple times a week, including yesterday. Great takes, great articles for them. So go give them a shout out and have it delivered right to your inbox. All right, I wasn't going to mention this, but it was too bizarre and too just out of control to not mention. So yesterday, the Back to the Future voice and text line was blowing up, and way more so than it ever does. And my TikTok was blowing up. And I could not figure out why. I'm sitting in meetings at work. So this dude on the Back to the Future voice and text line was texting me like nonstop, just nasty, just talking about the fan who was berating the Packers fan, and I'll get more into that later in the show, but could not understand why. He was like, is that your boy? What do you got to say about your boy? And listen, I get it. Sometimes it's going to be, being in this position, there's going to be hate. So I was just like, whatever, blew it off. But I checked my TikTok. So apparently I was tagged as one of the guys in the video. Like, not the guy screaming, but his friend next to him. And, like, I paused the video. It's kind of grainy, but other than being an Eagles fan and the dude having a short beard, I didn't see it. So, whatever. But, like, nasty comments coming in on my Twitter. But the views were going up. So, I'm like, all right, somehow. And it apparently somehow, I still don't know how the algorithm works, but somehow my video from last week, it was the 2002 NFC Championship game video, or not the NFC Championship game, the wild card video for this day. That clip was the one that was tagged somehow, and no clue how it is. So I don't know. I was responding to it, and then finally somebody was like, "Wait a minute, this dude looks nothing like him." And it just kind of, it was an interesting day on TikTok. Like the clip itself wasn't even for yesterday. It was for last week, had like over 200,000 views, which doesn't seem like a going viral moment. But typically when my views on TikTok, due to the algorithm, tend to be between 300 and 800, it's a pretty big bump. But it was interesting, basically not defending myself, but just like it took me a while to figure it out. And then once I responded to the guy on the Back to the Future text line, basically saying, you got the wrong dude, I haven't heard anything about it. But I wanted to bring it up because it just kind of goes to show how the mob mentality works and how it's important to have your facts straight before you react. Because some of the stuff that people, and I guess TikTok has filters that take out or filter, I guess you have to review them to get them on. Some of the nastier comments. So the stuff that was coming in was bad enough. But for the record, I like to go and say I was at the Eagles game on Sunday. I was not with that Ryan, whatever his name was. Don't know him. Never met him. I'm glad that he got what he is getting, and I'll get more into that in a minute. But that wasn't me in the video. But thank you for all the love. A lot of people, though, once they actually saw the video, my video, went through. So it was a good boost and a good way to promote my TikTok. So sometimes you make lemonade out of lemons, so to speak. But I still don't understand. One dude even was like, nah, man, this guy's eyebrows are straight. The dude in the video's eyebrows are curved, which I don't think anybody's ever called my eyebrows straight, but hey, I'll take it. But it was just an interesting day. But again, I'd like to officially say that was not me in the video. Doesn't look anything like it. Those guys' seats were way further up. And again, I'll get more into that in a minute. But thanks for the love on TikTok. My TikTok channel is finally starting to gain some traction just in time for the band. Son of a bitch. Anyway, all right, enough of that. Sixers lost to the Thunder yesterday, 118-102. No Joe, no Paul George, no Tyrese Maxey. Only had 9 healthy players playing. But I got to say, I mean, they got off to the first quarter, they were getting trounced, but they kept it close the rest of the way. I mean, all things considered, and unfortunately, this is where we are with the Sixers now. We I don't really like to go with moral victories when the expectations are high. But we'll take a moral victory out of this, only losing by 16, considering you only had 9 healthy players. But this team is teetering right now. Starting yesterday, 14 of their next 15 games are against teams with winning records, including the Knicks tonight. They're on the outside looking into the playoff picture. They're 2.5 back of the 10th seed, which would get them into the playoff tournament. Or the play-in tournament. So this team is teetering, and I really think the next month we're going to know whether we're playing for lottery picks or whether we're going for the playoffs. My 100% vote is at this point, I don't want any parts of the play-in tournament again. I'd much rather just go for the pick. Maybe that means shutting Joe down. I don't know if a trading Paul George is even on the table, but I don't think there should be anything off of the table at this point with this team. They're on the brink, and we'll see what happens over the next 15 games, which likely in the NBA, that's about a month and a half. So figure 6 weeks, we'll kind of revisit this and see where we're at. But that leads to today's question of the day. Heading into this little stretch of games against winning teams, are the Sixers done? Do they have any shot whatsoever? 267-495-8531. That'll get you in to the Back to the Future voice and text line. Be nice. I'm not the guy from the video, but text me, leave a voicemail, let me know what you're thinking. But are the Sixers at this point done? Or do you want to see where we're at in the next 6 weeks or so? And we will recap yesterday's question of the day later in the show, but I don't know. It's one thing after another. I say just shut it down, play for the lottery pick, and then regroup for next year. Have a plan in place and be ready to go next year. I still think we may have bought damaged goods with damaged goods with Paul George, but we'll see if he could ever get on the court. All right, but let me know. Are the Sixers done? 267-495-8531. Flyers suffered an overtime loss during a shootout last night, so they did get the point. That's 3 straight games now with a point for the Flyers. Bobby Brink and Owen Tippett scored both goals for the Flyers as they lost to the Columbus Blue Jackets in a shootout. Tomorrow they're up in New York to take on the Islanders. But again, you got to, with a young team like this, getting the points, that's what's important. So that's 3 straight games with the points for the Flyers. Hopefully that kind of momentum and that turnaround continues for them. Be sure to check out my boys over at the Clash and Conferences podcast. Great things happening with their Sports Fan Network. If you need information, that's available wherever you go to get your podcast, as well as on YouTube. And then do some shopping. Philly Goat. Check out their wide selection of stuff as we're gearing up here for this Super Bowl run. They got you covered. Hats, hoodies, pants, shoes, coffee, whatever you need. Philly Goat's got you covered. So go check out their site and use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. I got to try that coffee. It looks good, and I'm anxious to come back and report on it. I don't necessarily consider myself a coffee connoisseur, but take a good cup of coffee every now and then. But go to Philly Goat, use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off. All right, let's get into this Eagles game. And I guess let's start with a recap of yesterday's question of the day. I asked you early in the week, what is your confidence level, high, medium, or low? Pretty much split between high and medium, 38% each. And I think that's where we should be. I really do. I think the Eagles are the better team, even without Nakobe Dean. The Rams have been playing better, as our boy Bill from Flowertown pointed out. They're a different team than when we played them the last time. But the cold weather should bode well for them, as Bill eloquently put it. Thanks, Bill, for reaching out. But I think cautiously optimistic with this, just because I think the worry meter goes up as the playoffs sort of go on until you get to the Super Bowl. Then the Super Bowl, it's kind of just like you let everything go. But I think this is a critical game. You want to get down to one of the final four teams. And there are some things, and we've talked about that the Eagles could have done better in the Green Bay game. And we'll start looking ahead at the matchups and everything. I'll start kind of gearing up for my 3 keys starting tomorrow. But I like it. I mean, I like I said, I like being in the middle. That's kind of where I am, cautiously optimistic, trying to see where things are. I haven't had really an opportunity. I was busy at work yesterday, and then with the kids and everything, so I didn't have a chance to do much kind of in-depth analysis, but I'll start that tonight. But I'm cautiously optimistic. So thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. We already had our other one for today, and that's, are the Sixers done? But I mentioned the Kobe Dean, and it was interesting to hear. I had a conversation with my brother yesterday about this, and he's a big Trotter fan, big Trotter guy. My brother's a Florida State fan, so he saw a lot of him at Clemson. But it was interesting to hear Vic Fangio speak yesterday, because he was kind of non-committal on who is going to get the majority of the snaps. He said he kind of likes to see how the game flow dictates it. And I think what sort of, he said that usually they don't split the reps in practices. It's one person will take the reps. So when they practice today, I'm anxious to see who gets those starting reps. But when it's asked about Trotter, he said he has a good future, and the future could be now, kind of hinting that Trotter could get some more playing time, or more playing time this time. I guess the wild card in all of this is the fact that Burks and Trotter are such key members of the special teams, and you don't really want to take them away from what they did, especially after the beginning of the game yesterday. So this is the one thing I have my eye on this week, is who's getting most of the reps as the opposite linebacker of Zach Bond. But like I said, I do think that Trotter could be good. I think Burks could be good. But I want to be cautious and careful, because I do think you have enough other players on defense where you don't want to upset what's been happening on special teams. Because if you remember early in the season, that was an area of concern, and they've fixed that thanks in part to Oren Burks and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. So we'll see how that goes. But that's sort of the thing I'm watching this week, is who takes the majority of those snaps as the opposite side linebacker. They did bring Nick Morrow back. You might remember him from last year's team. So I don't know. It's not moving the needle for me, but it is a veteran guy who knows. Well, maybe he doesn't know the system, because Vic wasn't here last year. So I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about Nick Morrow. It's not like, oh my God, they signed Nick Morrow. But it is a body who's familiar, at least, with Nick Sirianni and this team. I don't necessarily think you put him in and even activate him for the divisional playoff game, but maybe he can play some special teams and give whoever's Trotter or Burks the break. But we shall see. All right, so that fan. You know, on here, I talk a lot about the fan behavior and how we get a bad reputation. Incidents like that do not help the cause. And It's just frustrating because there's certain lines you don't cross, and whether or not this guy was provoked, the Packers fan, the husband, is just almost as big of a scumbag as the guy that was yelling at this girl because he had a body count. Like, this is all set up. He provoked him. However, let me be the first to tell you, provoked or not, this dude screaming and yelling and doing that is absolutely unacceptable under any circumstance. And both of my kids, they're 8 and 9, always ask about coming to games. And it's idiots like that of why at 8 and 9, I will not bring them to regular season games because have a couple beers, feeling a little tough, and like it's uncalled for, unnecessary. 90%, 95% of Philly fans are not like that. However, this is what sells. Now, stuff like this does happen at other stadiums. This is not a Philadelphia thing. But due to our reputation, due to the fact that we threw snowballs at Santa, due to the fact we threw batteries at J.D. Drew, we talked about that yesterday, this is where the media is going to take it and run with it. And it is what it is. Like I said, I'm not sticking up for this dude at all. No, you're a scumbag. Like, everything you're getting, you deserve. Whether or not it's losing your job, getting banned from the stadium, whatever. I don't care how provoked you were. But there's certain lines you just don't cross. And like I said, 24 years of having season tickets, had my fair share of back and forth with opposing fans. But 99% of the time, end of the game, thank you for coming to the stadium, shake hands. And you're going to talk shit. You're going to go back and forth. But with the name calling, like that, that's a line you don't necessarily cross. And we had a good time with the Packers fans in our section last week. Back and forth, shook their hands, said thank you, good season, and that was it. Like, that's what you do. Done it with Cowboy fans from Dallas. Like I said, the Cowboy fans from Philly and the area here, it's a whole different breed. I'll get into that maybe on another show. But I've done it with Giants fans, and it's just... Listen, I think what people don't understand sometimes is I'm speaking for myself. I'm not rich, so I pay a shitload of money for those tickets, and I enjoy going to the games. I've talked a lot about the fact that the experience is what you go for, the viewing. It's much better to watch the game on TV on your couch. However, you go down for the whole experience, but I'm not rich. So I pay a damn hefty price for those tickets, even though we're in the 200 level. I'll be damned if because some Packers fan or Giants fan or Cowboys fan or Rams fan or whoever, I'm not losing my season tickets. I tell the guys in my group all the time, like, be careful who you sell your tickets to. I used to tell them when they had the paper tickets, I'm like, if you're going to get yourself into some shit, lose your ticket and say you don't know where your seat is. Like, it's a lot of money. So it's just unfortunate that this dude right now is the face of Philadelphia fans. And that's basically what a lot of the crux of the comments I was getting on TikTok yesterday. It might not be him, but they're all scumbags. And it's a shame because we're not all scumbags, but that's what you see. So that's sort of my take on that. I don't know. Like I said, he's just a scumbag. We'll get more into the Eagles as the week goes on. Spent more time talking about Twitter and TikTok and this fan than I expected to today. So tomorrow I'll get into the Eagles-Rams playoff history. They have played 3 times over the course of history. So we'll talk more about that tomorrow. I did want to mention the whole Gilly the Kid thing. He came out, led the Eagles, and then was doing his blow the whistle dance in the locker room after. They need to bring him back. I'm very superstitious with that. Gilly the Kid, you need to be in that locker room. You need to lead the Eagles out on the field on Sunday because it worked last week against the Packers. But if you don't, I highly recommend following Gilly the Kid. His Twitter, his TikTok, just his videos are outstanding. So I highly recommend it. But Eagles, if you're listening, you got to bring him back because it's good luck now. All right. Enough about all of that. Today, we are going to go back to 1965. And on this day, 1965, the Sixers made probably the biggest trade in their franchise history when they traded Connie Dierking, Paul Neumann, and Lee Shaffer, along with some cash, to the San Francisco Warriors for Wilt Chamberlain. Yes, Wilt returned home 3 years after the Warriors left to move to San Francisco, and his impact was felt almost immediately. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is Wilt Chamberlain only played roughly 3.5 years in Philly for the Sixers. But during those 3.5 seasons, he averaged 27.6 points, 23.9 rebounds, and 6.8 assists. Won 3 straight MVPs, led the Sixers to their first championship in Philadelphia in 1966-67. And the 67-68, he led the league in assists because he wanted to. He said, I want to lead the league in assists. Like, that's how good he was. The trade, ironically, though, did make both of these teams better. You don't usually see this too often. The Sixers, when they did win the championship, it came at the expense of the San Francisco Warriors. And then Wilt was traded to the Lakers after the 67-68 season. But on this day, back in 1965, Wilt Chamberlain came home 3 years after the Warriors moved from Philly to San Francisco to join the Sixers, won 3 straight MVPs, and the 1966-67 NBA championship before heading out west. He had an affinity for the West Coast and wanted to go back out. But on this day in 1965, the biggest trade in Sixers history happened when they brought Wilt Chamberlain home, and it paid off with a championship after the 1967-68 season. Finally, today, we're going to continue with our forgiveness for the new year. This one's tough for me. And remember, this is all in an effort to bring good karma, bring the good vibes to our teams for 2025. But this one, some of you may have already forgiven him, as evident as what happened last year, but not me. But I'm willing. I have to do this today. I need to get this off my shoulders. I need to bring all the good vibes I can. And today, I'm going to forgive Scott Rolen. And you remember Scott Rolen was drafted in 1993, came up, was Rookie of the Year. I believe it was 97 because Rollins won it in 96. Solid Phillies career, hit 282, 150 home runs in his 7 seasons here. Only made one All-Star game, and that, ironically enough, was the year that he was traded. He did demand that trade because he felt the ownership was not doing enough. Didn't get along with Larry Boa, which, you got to suck it up with that. Like, I can see being upset with the management, but come on, man. You got to... You're not going to like your boss sometimes. That's just what it is. Like, don't be a baby. He turned down that hefty contract and forced his way out of Philly. But he is a Hall of Famer. Whether or not you think he is or not, I question that. But you know what? Stats are the stats. I'll give him that. I personally still don't think he should be in the Wall of Fame, but he is. We'll get over that. Okay. There's nothing you can do about that. I'm over that. I'll get over it. And I'm going to do what's best for karma. And I forgive you for demanding a trade. I forgive you for not wanting to play in Philly. I forgive you for arguing and fighting with Larry Boa because truthfully, kind of as the time went on, his shtick grew old with everybody. But, man, I forgive you most importantly for what could have been, because your end of your career, you could have been the veteran on this team had you just been patient and had the foresight to see what was coming down the pipe. We had a couple different third basemen. We had, who was it? It was Pedro Feliz and then Placido Polanco during that 2007-2011 run. Scott, you could have been the third baseman for 5 straight NL East championships, as well as that World Series. And who knows, maybe we win another one if you'd have had the foresight. But again, all water under the bridge. I forgive you. I'm going to be the bigger person. This one is one of the tougher ones for me because I don't like how the whole situation played out. But you know what? For the greater good, to be the bigger person, to get that karma, because I know a lot of folks out there, when you were inducted into the Hall of Fame last year, they forgave you. Scott Rolen, today, I forgive you. I feel better. Brought up some emotions, brought up some frustrations in me. But Scott, I forgive you. On this day in 1965, Sixers with the biggest trade in franchise history, trading Connie Dierking, Paul Neumann, Lee Shaffer, and some cash to the Warriors for Wilt Chamberlain, in which it paid off. They won their first championship in Philadelphia. We'll have more on the Eagles-Rams tomorrow, including their playoff history, all 3 times they faced each other. Let me know your thoughts on the Sixers. Are they done? 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related off of your chest. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for January 15th, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Wednesday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.